Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Banks, and today I'm going to take a closer look at the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is introduced to us in chapter 6 of our textbook, which is one of my sources I'm going to be using today, titled Intercultural Communication in Context by Judith Martin and Thomas Nakayama. And I hope to see how important it is to comprehending cross-cultural communication, which we're learning in this course. So moving on, and here's my first slide. I just wanted to get a little interesting with it. I wanted to make it more fun, and I wanted to make the colors pop. So I did a little orange and like rainbow, make it look pretty. So linguistic relativity, which is known to us from our textbook, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, also known as that, speculates that a language's vocabulary and structure can affect how its speakers understand and interpret the outside world. In more simpler terms, our thoughts and worldview are influenced by the language we use. Okay, next, moving on. So according to this article that I found, written by Science Direct, titled Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis, I learned more in depth about the founders of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. So known by the names of, its creators, Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has its roots in linguistic anthropology and even dates back to the early 1900s, which is very interesting and very long ago. So the theory's foundation, as described in this article, was established by renowned linguist Edward Sapir, who's on my left, who emphasized the complex relationship between language and culture. Inspired by Sapir's theory, Benjamin Lee Whorf on the right developed them even further, arguing that not only language shapes, but it not merely reflects mental processes and cultural viewpoints. So their combined efforts have made a substantial contribution to our knowledge as a whole of how language shapes our worldview. So some key concepts that I found within our textbook and after doing, further research, I learned about linguistic determinism and linguistic relativity. So to start things off, I'm going to touch base on linguistic determinism first. So according to this theory, language restricts our cognitive potential and shapes the way we think. For instance, speakers of a language may find it difficult to understand or discuss a given topic if the language lacks words to represent it. So consider how the Inuit people who live more in like Dakota regions are said to have many terms for various kinds of snow, for example, demonstrating their profound knowledge of this feature of their surroundings, and that's how they communicate. So moving on, linguistic relativity, on the other hand, emphasizes that differences in language can cause disparities in how speakers of different languages perceive and even think. So grammatical gender usage in languages like German and Spanish is an example of that. So speakers' perceptions of items can be influenced by their assigned gender, which could have an effect on their behavior and attitudes. And I just find that all so cool to even learn about. So some other examples that I found that are quite intriguing to me. I first want to start off by talking about colors. So some languages only have one word to describe what English designates as blue and green. Because of how these languages are classified, speakers of these languages might see these colors in different ways than we do. So I've chose this image on the left, as you see here. If you ever been to Home Depot, they have the little color paint swatches, and I thought this was a good representation of what I mean by color and the different tones. So moving on, after doing extensive research from the article 7-Time Language and Thought, titled What Language Can Tell Us About Our Concepts of Time by Mary Eve Ritz, certain indigenous languages may convey time in a more cyclical way than English, which has a tendency to portray time as linear, which is like past, present, and future. So this linguistic distinction that I noticed might have an impact on how speakers prioritize and think about time. And this is why I included these visuals, because I just wanted to give you guys like a sense of what I mean. So when it comes down to the intercultural communication aspect behind it all, behind the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, I noticed that it emphasizes how language may be a potent weapon in influencing our views, which makes it essential for comprehending intercultural communication overall. When interacting with people from diverse cultures, this awareness is crucial since it allows us to recognize the variety of linguistic structures and prevent misunderstandings. So for another example of what I mean by all of this is understanding these linguistic differences can help you avoid misinterpreting others when you communicate with them, especially those whose language frames concepts differently. So furthermore, by being aware of the cultural connotations of language, we can approach communication with greater tact and promote cross-cultural interactions that are more fruitful. So to sum up everything that I mentioned today, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis clarifies the complicated connection between language and cognition and provides important guidance for negotiating the challenges of cross-cultural communication overall. So I would like to thank you guys for taking the time to watch my video, and I can't wait to see which hypothesis you guys are interested in. So my last slide is my references slide. So I used our textbook, which is by Martin and Nakayama. I used the article which focuses on time, language, and thought by Mary E. Ritz. And then my last article that I used focuses on the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis overall and gives us, like, it breaks it down of what it really truly means. And that is by Science Direct Topics. So thanks again for taking the time to watch my video.